Hello and welcome to A Palace for the People. I'm Wanjiro Koinange.
I am Angela Washuka. This season, we're focusing on the theme of protest.
So when some protests happen, they're hard to ignore. Maybe it's because the issue on the table feels personal. That's what the My Dress, My Choice protest felt like for me. Personal. For us millennials, that protest really got us fired up. And it's crazy to think of it as recent history to be discovered within the archive. But that's exactly how our next book bank intern, Juliet, discovered it. I'll let her tell you more.
So the first role I had in terms of research was just researching overall any protests that had taken place in Kenya, the history of protests. And after I'd done that, surprisingly, I had not covered any of the ones that's being currently on women, particularly the My Dress, My Choice. It was the last thing that I remembered because I don't know why, but I had just forgotten it. So when I was doing my research, I came across the story, and that's when I remembered this was actually a big thing back in 2014. But back then I was a teenager, so it wasn't really front of mind. I kind of felt bad for forgetting. I was guilty for forgetting because how can I forget something? I remember at the time when I was 14, it made an impact to me because it gave me a certain fear that I still remember to date, the fear of just being a girl, walking around, dressing how I'd like to dress. So when I started looking into it, I was shocked by just how many cases of women's harassments there were in public spaces. And all this led me to Rita Mutheu, one of the organizers of the My Dress, My Choice movement.
My Dress, My Choice movement began on social media, and it grew from social media before it ever hit the ground. And it started when a post was put up or a video was put up of a woman being undressed or stripped, that is the word, in public and being violated.
When the video first went viral, it was in a Facebook community called Kilimani Moms. The group today has evolved into many different things, but back when Rita saw the video, it was a group of women who were sharing their personal stories, their relationships, gossips, that kind of thing.
So many women got mad because everybody could relate to this person. Most of us women have experienced some form of sexual harassment, sexual assault. Most of us have either gotten catcalls, or when you are going to on board a matatu, there's always somebody cropping you. Sister, panda. Somebody's holding your waist, holding your behind. It's like somebody is always offering to assist, in quotes, because that is groping. So it felt like most of us were touched by that issue. It took traction. The whole day people kept discussing it, and people were just over this crap, and we were just mad. So somebody came and said, if you're in this group and you want to do something about it, let's meet Power 254.
Power 254 is a creative space that was founded by the Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi. One thing I can say about Boniface is his protests really gain traction because of the methods he uses.
We're talking about Boniface Mwangi.
Boniface Mwangi.
So
someone called Boniface. I don't know Boniface.
So the person who was writing that message, giving us a platform to sit and look at the way forward, was actually Boniface Mwangi's sister. She's called Wairimo Mainge. So she talked to Boniface, and he asked now the women now to move from social media, come and sit down and deliberate on what you are going to do.
For the first time in her life, Rita decided to do something about the anger she felt.
So I left my house, met someone who said they know Power 254, and we walked there. And when we reached there, Boniface Mwangi told us we need to make sure everybody has heard about this, and we need for the government and every legislator to do something about this issue. Because that time, stripping was not an offense. It was an assault, whereby you pay a small fine, then go. So we needed to make so much noise for it now to become an offense.
They needed to hold a protest. As Rita would soon learn, According to the Kenyan government, there is a right way and a wrong way to go about being a protest. Getting word out there was essential, but also they needed to learn and use effective protesting tactics.
Not every day is good for a protest. Monday is a good day for a protest, because even most of the news and media outlets don't have a story on Monday, so they are likely to cover you. You have to have a petition which you take to parliament, to the legislators. If you look at most of the protests, there's always a protest route which goes right outside parliament. When they go to parliament, they demand for the legislator, if it's the women rep, come outside and receive this, and you listen and make a commitment to change. Remember, you cannot do a protest without a permit, and that permit has a timeline. That's why sometimes if the permit is written from 9 to 5, then after 5, if you are still found protesting, it means you violated the constitution. That's why sometimes you see the police coming, because after 5, after 6 p.m. at night, you can't protest at night.
They also knew security was a major concern. Talking about the protest online had already triggered a backlash.
Got attacked from the minute we started talking about it, and it got traction. We were getting attacked from left and right, whereby the moral police came to tell us we were asking women to walk naked.
The moral values to our children also, they seem to be forgotten. Kwanza, kitu ya kwanza wafae mzuri.
First, women should dress decently. Dressing decently has been there since the old days.
Ukivaa vizuri, huwezi shikwa na mwanaume.
When you dress decently, no one will touch or strip you. When a woman dresses indecently, it means she's putting herself out there, like she's selling her body.
I'd like right now to categorically say the protest had nothing to do with actually how women dress, because right now we all understand if a pervert, a pedophile, a rapist will always do that despite of how you are dressing. How you are dressed doesn't matter. If you talk about dressing modestly, women in coast were also part of the movement because they've been cropped while they are covered from head to toe. Babies have been raped. How do you explain that about dressing? It's just that people wanted to trivialize the campaign and discredit us and start telling us we were asking women to walk naked. That was not the point at all.
The group sold t-shirts and merchandise and used those funds to pay for security. On the day of the protest, they chose to start their march at Freedom Corner. Freedom Corner holds a special place in Kenyan history. For over 30 years, activists, both male and female, have returned to that space to fight for justice, including people like Wangari Maathai and mothers of political prisoners back in 1992. That space has seen a lot of Kenya's struggles.
I don't think even that night I slept. So I think by 4 I was awake. So we came very early. We had our megaphones. We had the sound system on top of a pickup, and other people who joined us, even men. It was such a huge movement, and the turnout also shocked us. It was emotional, panic mode, of course, because you're like, I hope everything goes well. Even pride, like I couldn't believe my voice had brought all these people, and that support. The support was just overwhelming. And we had women with banners, we had placards, we had women in mini skirts, very short skirts, symbolic. It was just amazing. So we started walking. When we reached the first stop at GPO, women sat down on the ground. We had these freedom songs, chanting.
From Freedom Corner, the large group found its way through different streets in Nairobi. And en route to the parliament, they made a stop at the Embasava Matatu stage.
There is when now the real protest began. Women were climbing on top of those matatus. We wanted every matatu could not operate at that time. And we made such a statement there at that bus park. Unajua, hapo the area of where Embasava is archives, all there, it's a big stage. So we actually stayed there for so long, and women were climbing on top of those matatus in their miniskirts.
The matatus could not get through. Their protest had stopped traffic. Looking at pictures of the day, it really hit me how much intimidation the women had faced. So I asked Rita about this.
And I noticed there was opposition, some groups that came up, archives that came and tried to join your group and disrupt the movement. So how did you maintain courage in face of this opposition?
If you could have looked at the faces of women that day I saw warriors. It's like we were the freedom fighters. We were not afraid. Like we had enough. It was like a day of kufa dereva, kufa matatu. We didn't care. We weren't afraid. We confronted them face to face. We actually stood there and told them off. And remember, we also had security. But actually, people didn't care. That day was a day of reckoning.
They took their petition to Parliament and demanded to see the woman rep, who at the time was Rachel Shebesh. After waiting for a long time for her to come out and being told she was out of town, she finally arrived, and they were disappointed in her response. She demanded to address the group, but people were not having it.
They refused completely. She was chased away. And then it's worse when you don't appear, you don't support, you don't even buy a t-shirt. Nothing, you didn't support with anything, and you want to talk to her. You come with your big car, it has dropped you there. You didn't even walk the length of the way.
Less than 1 month after the protest, the president at the time, Uhuru Kenyatta, met with members of the movement at University of Nairobi and gave a directive.
We are here to acclaim our women and their dignity. We are equal. And even before the eyes of God, we are equal. Our constitution guarantees it.
Their protest changed the law. It also led to greater accountability within the transportation sector.
Stripping is now a criminal offense. You can be jailed up to 10 years. So that for me was such a huge milestone. But of late, I feel like in Kenya, when it comes to issues of gender, issues of sexual violence, especially towards women, it's like we all go forward and then we go backwards. And our backwards is never one step. It's like 100 steps backward. Now we've moved from stripping to murder.
Are among the at least 14 women reportedly killed in Kenya.
Police say 97 women have been killed in the last 3 months.
More than 500 Kenyan women have been killed by men.
Every 10 minutes, a woman is murdered. And they're not murdered by a random stranger. They are murdered by an intimate partner, a relative, or somebody they know. So those statistics are staggering. Right now, we've sat here for how long? Maybe 2 to 3 women have already been murdered. That is just sad. So I feel like we go forward, then we go 100 steps backward.
After their protest, Rita and the other organizers found themselves being tagged on social media. They were approached anytime there were incidences of injustice towards women. They used the momentum of the protest to form an organization called Her Voice. And this is how Rita became the activist she is today.
So what advice would you give a budding activist like myself?
I would say, always stand on your truth. You'd rather stand alone, but stand on the truth. If you are an activist, or sometimes even in advocacy, most of the people who are truly there to serve the community die poor. There are so many things you can do without funding. I want Kenyans to start believing in ourselves, and we need to believe we deserve the best. We need to stand up and fight for our rights. It's our constitutional right to protest and picket. It's in the Constitution. So anytime you see people protesting, if you don't want to go, don't trivialize what they are doing. But most of the Kenyans now have woken up. I think we've been beaten so many times by the system, by the politicians, to a point now people are woke. And I rarely now see that narrative of when people go for protest, mnaharibia watu biashara. So I want Kenyans to never accept mediocrity. We deserve good leaders. We deserve systems which work. We pay taxes. So let's stay strong. Let's keep fighting. And one day, we are going to see a beautiful, beautiful country.
After talking to Rita, I felt empowered as a woman and also as a Kenyan. So one thing I took away from her is that I can also be an activist, and that young people can also stand for their voices to be heard. I do feel that I benefited from the My Dress, My Choice movement. I'd say there's greater awareness on the rights of women in terms of how they dress. But as a country, we still have a long way to go before we can fully achieve society where women are fully protected. I feel that there are some clothes I still can't wear to CBD, especially if I'm to use public transport. I'd rather dress like a shosho, dressed from head to toe, rather than have to deal with the harassments. What I think would happen to me if I were to dress in, say, short dresses, a miniskirt, tight clothes, and especially in the public transport, is a lot of catcalling, that is for sure. People trying to touch you in ways you do not want. People trying to push you, rub themselves against you. And that's something I would just rather not deal with. I would not go to the police in terms of catcalling, somebody trying to rub themselves against me, touching me. So I feel like the law only waits until something massive, something damaging has happened, then they can take steps to punish the offenders. For the everyday harassments, I'd say women are basically on their own on that.
As always, thank you for listening. This is A Palace for the People, and I am Wanjiro Koinange.
And I am Angela Washuka.
This episode was produced by Ida Holinambi, May Francis, and Juliet Ndoti. As always, many thanks to all our guests and experts for sharing their knowledge. To donate or support our work, please visit bookbank.org. And you can find learning resources to go along with this episode at bookbank.org/podcast. This podcast was supported by the British Council's Cultural Protection Fund, administered in partnership with the UK's Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport.